Good morning. I've actually been up for over 2 hours, but I didn't do my audio check till about a minute ago. I totally forgot, even though my camera has been on for over an hour probably, or about an hour. Um, and I didn't do the audio check and realized at 4:43, hey, I didn't do the audio check yet. So I quickly did it, and it was gibberish the first time, and the second time it was good. Anyway, good morning again. Before I even do the title this morning, the title may not come for a little while yet. I want to go back to the meditation the other night, the prayer at 7:15. As I've already pointed out, I had just watched the video from the guy from Christian from Australia who had his house taken and everything, and I had just watched that just prior to going back into the meditation room and setting it up for a specific meditation in which I held the globe and prayed for different parts of the world and everything. But on my mind very much was all of the freedom fighters and all of the people who have over the ages have stood up for truth and not made it. I remember the 11th chapter of Hebrews, which is the faith chapter in the Bible. And it talks about people that did great exploits by faith, but it also talks about those that were beheaded and sawn asunder and suffered despicable crimes by the authorities and the people of their day throughout the ages. This thing that we're on, this journey that we're in right now, this crisis point, focus point that we've reached, brings to my mind all of the things that have gone before. But one of the interesting things that I noticed, my altar consists on the left of 3 candles. And the altar itself is a pan that contains sand from the beach, a whole bunch of different stones and rocks, seeds, pieces of plant material, a glass of water, and in the middle of it is a metal plate shaped actually like a heart. It's like a little bowl, not plate, more or less. And there's charcoal on that, and I put paraffin in so it burns. But in front of that is a crystal that stands at the very front of the altar pan, if you will. And I never really noticed before, but it looked as if the crystal, when I was sitting back in the chair, letting Dr. Mary's old chair, which has my mom's Afghan on it, as I was sitting back there, it looked as if the crystal was on fire. And I actually got up from my chair and I went and I looked because it was reflecting so much light. So much light. It looked as if it was actually burning. It wasn't, of course, and it sits, 5 or 6 inches, maybe 4 or 5 inches probably from the flame, where the flame actually was. So it's not right in the flame. But it looked as if it was from my vantage point. But anyway, I was realizing that people around the world were connecting with me, and I was feeling the love, and also, a whole bunch of things were going through my mind, a whole bunch of things. And then I came and said thank you, and some of you picked up that I wasn't in that joyous, bubbly place, and I haven't really been in a joyous, bubbly place for the last while. And that's the truth. I'd like to be, but I'm not. Where I am is where I am. And that brings me to today's title, 2012, Keeping All Options Open. And the blurb that I wrote almost an hour ago now, we all have preconceived ideas of what is true and what is real about the world we live in. Me too. It seems to me that my situation is symbolic of a much bigger picture of what is happening on this planet. The old world and the new age are in confrontation mode. We may not like that. I certainly don't. It is not a comfortable place in which to be. The confrontation to the more astute individual is not only taking place in the world, it is happening within us. My guidance is telling me to keep all options open. Another week has passed and I did not receive the material that's been on order from a government agency outside of Florida. That is one of the remedies that I was ready to employ. I haven't been able to employ it because the paperwork that I'm getting from this agency is a major piece of that puzzle. And until I have the pieces ready, I can't even begin to file the documentation because that's part of the documentation and I don't have it in my hands. And I have been in communication with them and they're working on it, but it also seems that they're dragging their feet. So it is what it is. That's one option that I thought I was going to have that isn't materializing at this point in time. So that's frustrating for me. And then there's a couple of other areas of things that I'm doing that have also been frustrating as the deadline for the sale of my property comes every day closer. Now, yesterday, very early in the morning, in the beginning of the business day, I called the bank that the lawyer represents that is doing this foreclosure proceeding, which isn't, again, I've never had a foreclosure. There's never been a court. Florida is a judicial state, which means it has to have a hearing on the matter. There's never been a hearing, at least not one that I've been involved in. And so somebody has made a decision separate from me, which they have no contract or right, but they've done it. And anyway, I reached the bank and I told them, I finally got to talk to a human being that had a conversation. I actually probably spent altogether maybe an hour or close to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe on the phone with him on two separate occasions. Actually, I think there were three times that we actually talked on the phone, although the third one was fairly short. However, when I talked to him and I told him the situation, he wanted information so he could look it up in the records, and he looked it up and he says, well, let me check on this and I'll get back to you. Well, a couple of hours later, he did get back to me. And he said, we can't find any record of your, of what you're talking about. He says, I went online, I looked at the records in the court records online. And he says, I've done some investigation that way. And he wanted to know who the plaintiff was and in the lawsuit. And I mean, he gave me the name and he wanted to know what he represented. And he was a banker, a retired banker who tried to take all of Dr. Mary's property before the trust was set up. Anyway, he couldn't find anything. And I thought, wow! I mean, he was a super nice guy. A super nice guy. And I thought, see, the thing doesn't even exist. I don't know what the lawyer is doing, but she's not representing PNC Bank because they don't even have a record of this whole thing. But he said that he did give the little caveat here. Well, I don't know if that's the wrong word, but he gave me one more thing to check on. He says, now there's another division. He didn't say where it was, but it was in Ohio. This was Pittsburgh that I was talking to, where the headquarters is. Let me connect you with them. And he connected me with them. And after a couple of attempts, I couldn't get through right away and had to call him back and said, they're not answering the phone. And anyway, long story short, I talked with a lady there. And at first she couldn't find anything there. And she kept looking, and she had me on hold for a while. Then she came back and she said, "Is your address 473 Thomas Drive?" And I said, "Yes, it is." She says, I found it. Uh, and there's not a whole lot that I can do. And we talked for a while. She said, "There's not a whole lot that I can do. You need to talk to this person." And she connected me with that person, and it was voicemail. It was an answering machine, or a message. So I left a message, and I waited almost 2 hours, an hour and a half or 2 hours, and called back again and got the voicemail again. I didn't actually get to talk to this person. So again, it left me in limbo. There's much advice coming to me, much advice. And the dream that I had the other night that I mentioned yesterday about asking the sheriff directions. I mean, the short way was right there at this little cafe that I had gone into to ask directions on how to get to where I was going. And I don't even know where it was, but the sheriff, when I asked him, he knew. And he says, "You can take the turn right here, the next street." And he says, they're not good roads, but that's the shortest way to get to where you're going. But it's going to be a little bit rough. The roads are rough through that area. Or you can go further out this way, and then you double back in. He says it's a much longer route, but the road is much smoother. And that has to have application to the situation that I'm in, because there's two choices, and I have to keep both options open. Now, to me, the ideal choice for me, the easy choice, which may or may not work, is to just stand back and let God take care of it. That's not very practical. My mind doesn't like that. And there's a part of me that strongly resists that because it sounds so airy-fairy even to me. Let them throw you into the fiery furnace. Let them put you in the lion's den. You're going to be delivered. And there's that message, and sometimes I feel that that's actually the truth. Going through the legal proceedings is a maze. And I mean, these people are desperate. I mean, I just posted a video earlier on Facebook, in which a man is trying to pay his mortgage payment in cash at Bank of America, and they won't accept it, and he's recording it. And there were 4 very short videos. One of them wasn't even a minute long. And then the police came. He's outside, and the police came and says, "If you go back in that bank again, you're going to get charged with trespassing." Now, he's their customer, and he's trying to pay in cash, and they won't take the money. They won't take Federal Reserve notes as payment. Ah, interesting. The system is being brought to a confrontational point where the forces of truth and the forces of fraud are at each other's face. They're in each other's face. And my case, which I wish to God it was over. I wish this cloud would get out. I don't like being under this cloud. It doesn't feel good. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much anxiety. And it doesn't feel good. And I'm being really honest with you, and you know that. Those of you that listen, especially, you know that. But I'm not just representing me. I am representing me, and it's my situation. But there are so many people all over the world that are in similar situations, because we live in a world that is built on fraud. And we don't know. For each person, wherever they are, think that where they are is right. Well, certainly this is the truth, because they're looking at it through that lens. And I do that, you do that, we all do that. And so in our own eyes, we're all right. But obviously we're not. So we do have to keep all options open. Now, one of the things that just came to me after I came out of the meditation room, and while I was looking at all my email, one of the emails that came is about ecclesiastical courts. Now, I think of Sharia law, the Islamic law, and they have their own court system and stuff like that. And I don't know, I haven't researched this very much about the ecclesiastical courts, but one of the things that it says here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but anyone may seek to place him or herself under the ecclesiastical court jurisdiction by petitioning the court to consider his or her suit. The petitioner's rights are encompassed and entrenched in the free exercise clause of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution by Public Law 97-28, which was from 1952, which declared the Holy Bible as the Word of God, and by the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993. The key is that it is a voluntary petition, either for original jurisdiction or to remove a case from a de facto court. Obviously, the petitioner should know what he or she is doing. Judge Naidu was quite clear that the rulings from the ecclesiastical court would be just. If you were guilty of a crime, you would be punished. What the ecclesiastical court can do is to remove cases from the de facto jurisdictional racketeering gristmill. He also mentioned that this could be viewed and used as a traditional stage to protect people from judicial abuse until the republic courts are up and running. And this came from the Minnesota Free State Chief Justice, who attended the seminar training on ecclesiastical courts. And I know very little, I know next to nothing about these, but this is another option. And what I'm saying, folks, and what Spirit is telling me, Ron, keep all your options open. Don't discount anything, and don't be afraid to be creative, because the system tries to box us in, and it gives carefully defined parameters so that it can win and we lose, we the people. And we have to be creative. And I get frustrated because I like easy. I like easy. But folks, what we're in right now, what I'm in right now, is not easy. It's a transition between an old paradigm and a new paradigm. The new paradigm is here now, and the old paradigm realizes there are people in it that all they can see, their truth is, all of my security, everything that I think I know is coming to an end. And that's happening not just in the government and corporations and stuff like that. That's happening with people that have been hanging on to an old-time religion, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, or whatever. All of these have pieces of truth. All of them do. None of them are true. None of them are true. As in all truth. There's no such thing in our culture as all of the truth. It's spread out. A little piece there, a little piece there, a little piece there. And only our heart can integrate and reconcile all of these different aspects and bring these pieces together. Which is why I say follow your heart, trust your gut. We have to walk where we've never walked before and keep all options open, because we're creating the future right now. It's happening right now. And our DNA is being changed, especially for those of us that want it. Our energy levels are rising. We're being given the gifts. The gifts in us and the talents and abilities in us are awakening, but we have to work with the energies. We have to allow the energy to flow. And so I encourage you to keep as much of a positive attitude as you can, while not putting your head in the sand as to what's going on in the world, because there is a confrontation that's happening. And it's happening within me, within you, within all of us, and it's happening in the outer world that we inhabit. Everything is going to change, and it's going to change fairly rapidly. One said it's the photon belt. We're moving into that, and when that happens, it's instantaneous. I mean, you're like in a totally different energy right off the bat. Well, I thought we were in the photon belt several years ago. We entered it, I thought, but that might have been misinformation. And I don't know which is true. I don't know what the truth is. All that I know is that I'm here right now, and so are you, and we're facing everything that we're having to face. And it's really critical to keep our options open and to allow Spirit to bring the truth that we need now in each moment to us. And don't prejudge. Don't let go of your biases and your prejudices and keep an open heart and an open mind. Really, really important if we're going to be able to keep all options open and get out of this mess. My time has gone longer than I anticipated. It's over 20 minutes already. Thank you for listening, and please take to heart what I've shared with you. Namaste.